What are you giving him money for?
Mountain Dew fund. Yeah, Mountain Dew.
Hey Tim, you may or may not know this. My understanding is at the school board meeting at 6, they're doing like academic award thing. When are they doing that in the meeting?
Probably like 6:05 or
First thing? Okay, so if I cut out of here and went to that, I could come back and still sit with you and Jeff?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
'Cause I kind
Yeah,
of
they usually have roll. I mean,
so they do that first.
Yeah, it's because they know everyone that's there is there for that reason.
Yeah.
And then they do it, and then everyone leaves, and then they have like 2 people left in the audience, like they normally do.
Okay.
Just like our meetings.
Okay.
They move it to the front of the agenda.
Okay. All right. So, guys, I'll probably be cutting out at about 9:45, 10 till, something like that.
Daughter being award.
Yeah, she got all A's last, first time ever, I think she got. Well, I mean, other than like 4th grade or something. Yeah, so.
She's putting your GPA to shame.
Oh, yes, she is. Yes, she is.
God.
Yep.
He'd rather not talk.
They give letters. It's if you get 2. Well, you have to have 2 consecutive
All A's.
semesters.
Yeah.
Okay.
9-week grading period.
Yeah, like that. And then the more you have, the more you get and stuff like that. And they do it for your entire time, so that actually graduating seniors that got them last year, you don't get it till like the year after. Because it's. So they do it usually in December, hoping the kids will be back. They used to do it around Christmas time, hoping kids will be back when no one's ever back. So now they just do it first meeting in December.
I haven't got my award yet.
And usually it's parents will show up to collect it together. But usually it's like
Well, there's awards for
about
him.
20 people.
It's not scholastic, but that's all.
But
Are you stealing from the
Brian, you ready to start?
I am ready to start.
Okay.
All right, we will start public safety, 5:30. Chief Huggins, would you like to start?
I can.
Can we let Sergeant Black start? Because he needs to, when he's done, he needs to leave.
okay. Yeah.
He's got the gun. He's got the gun. You're going first.
Well, I'm here in place of Chief Mason, who's out of town this month. This week. I've got the statistics again. The November statistics, the calls for service are down from 2013. We're sitting there at 1,076. Offense reports are down. We're at 109 for the month in comparison to 148 last year. However, a number of arrests are up to 56. Number of accidents, those almost doubled. They went from 20 last year to 37 this year. I looked into that, and we had those inclement days mid-November. And I looked at the number of reports. I believe we took 9 accident reports in 2 days, and those were all weather related. So that really caused a spike there. Yes, sir.
The year before was extremely low compared to the year before that.
Yes, and that was probably due to the weather also. Number of citations were up. We issued 82 citations in comparison to 70 last year. Again, some of those may be in regards to traffic crashes. Weather-related. Overtime usage for November 2014, we had $13,449 that was paid out, which puts us over the budget of $135,000. In regards to some of our overtime, we've had 3 lengthy leaves for officers. 1 due to injury and 2 due to FMLA, which caused a lot of that overtime. So this was not a normal year for us. Whenever we have something like that, it's going to obviously increase our overtime with our current staffing. When you look at our alarms, there were 29 alarms. 25 of those were commercial, 4 were residential. In regards to communications, last time I was here, yes, sir.
Isn't there a fine if they 2 or 3 false alarms?
I'm not sure the number of false alarms before there is a bill, but yes, we do bill for false alarms above so many. I don't think that they actually gave. It doesn't indicate here how much they billed in that month. We can get that for you next month and keep you a running total on that.
That's a good deterrent.
Yes, it is. Communications. Last time I was here, we discussed the March radio system, and at that time it was due to be installed. Since that time, the March channels have been installed and programmed into the cruisers and also to the main radio system. March is for mutual aid only, and we have Newark with the Cache Sheriff's Office, Pataskala, Granville, and Otis, and Hostile Air Patrol channels on there. Now, when I say they're programmed in there and we can listen to them, let me go and explain that to you. It's set up in zones, and you might want to think of these zones as rooms. So we have Heath in one room, and all those other agencies in another zone in another room with the door closed. So when we are on our main channel and we are trying to discuss back and forth with our dispatcher, we cannot hear what the other agencies are doing. So in order for us to hear what's going on, we have to actually switch over to their channels to hear, which in turn, if we're in our cruisers, which in turn, we're not able to hear our dispatcher unless we turn on our portable radio. So it's sort of aiding us, but it's not completely working. For instance, last weekend, Newark had that shooting. And I spoke with some of the guys that were working, and they found out via a Twitter alert. Even though they're sitting in their cruiser and there's a shooting that occurs just in the next jurisdiction, they weren't alerted by listening to the radio because of the fact that we can't actively listen. Our guys can't actively listen. So had that been a shooting and it was something evolving and they were moving towards Heath, we would not have, our guys out in the cars would not have known until Newark put in contact with us and then relayed that information to us.
Are they going to do anything to try and better that?
Well, I
so
do
it
know.
makes it better?
I do know that there's been some discussion about picking up Mark's channels, and I believe in regards to us beginning to transmit on Mark's channels, because if we did that, then we'd be able to hear everything that's going on. So I think you and the chief have discussed that.
Is it
I think
cost to?
Well, yeah.
To do, yeah,
Licensing.
I know.
Licensing. We've talked before about how there's an inevitable, in my opinion, migration to Marks. Question is when, okay? And we're taking steps. Before our radios were programmed to have these Marks channels, there was literally no way for us to be able to communicate via radio with Newark PD or the sheriff's office. I think Sergeant Black talked a couple of months ago about a recent incident where our people were on their cell phones talking to their people on their cell phones. So having the Marks radios programmed and having them available for mutual aid use only is a step in the direction. If we need them, as Sergeant Black described, our guys in the field can flip over to that channel and talk to them, so that they don't have to use their cell phones. My understanding is that with the status currently, being that it's for mutual aid or emergency use only, the licensing fee is either non-existent or significantly less than if we were full-blown on Marks. Yes. My understanding is that our dispatch room has these Marks channels available. Our patrol cars now have these Marks channels available. And the handhelds, the shoulder ones, do they also have the Marks available, the walkies?
No, sir, they do not.
Okay. So this is a step in what I think really is going to be the inevitable migration to Marks. Now the question is going to be this. It'll be interesting to see, will the state reduce or perhaps eliminate the licensing fees for Marks? It's pretty clear that they want everybody to migrate to Marks. The system is much more built out than it was 5 years ago or so. They're really not giving much grant money for anything other than that type of thing. So it'll be interesting to see if the state legislature cuts local governments a break and reduces or eliminates the licensing fee for marks now that so many agencies are on it. Given the fact that just last week our state Senate passed House Bill 5, I'm sure the House will, if they haven't already, will approve the amendments that were made so that they can get House Bill 5 to the governor's desk for his signature. And we've discussed ad nauseum about the financial impact that could have to the city. I don't know that the state government's much in the mood for cutting local government's breaks, but we'll see. We make enough noise, we'll see what happens.
Will your Mark's radios also, its template or whatever, does it have the fire channels built into that, or is that something, a totally different program?
I believe that they are also built in there, so we can listen to what's going on with the fire department.
I think that's true too.
We're waiting we went with the handhelds versus I have a Mark's radio that will be programmed at both fire stations and then 11 walkie-talkies that will be programmed. So when we go out on a call, we'll operate on Mark's. So Dirt City and Granville are our two closest right now. Hebron eventually will operate on Mark's, and that'll allow us to communicate with them. Currently, we're using a packed system, and that's not working out real well. And that's what I was wondering about, like your dispatchers. If they're monitoring Mark's in the control room, can they either notify you guys or can they patch that into your cruisers over your 800 channel and where you can listen to both?
They probably could patch it in, but that would be almost the same as the mutual aid, where it would be easier for us to, in the car, switch over. Because with that patch, there's going to be that inevitable delay. Because it's going to go from north to our central dispatch, they're going to have to do their stuff there, and then it will be relayed out to the cruisers. So the patch would work the same as if the dispatchers are listening to the radio traffic and giving a play-by-play.
Okay.
Do they have, the dispatchers, do they have the capability to actively listen to Mark's while they're still working and broadcasting on our 800 system, so as to overhear a scenario as you described, where there's a chase or there's something, and they think maybe the suspect is headed toward Heath or something?
Yes, sir, they do. The only issue that I would see, though, is because of the location of that current radio, which is actually sitting behind each one of the dispatchers, and the fact that they wear headphones, or at least one earpiece that covers one ear, and then they're supposed to be listening for the phone ringing or people coming in the lobby. Those sort of distractions, it's easy enough for them to miss something like that.
Okay.
Just because they're not on that main channel.
So the procedure then that the sheriff's office and Newark and Granville and I guess maybe the highway patrol need to be made aware of is that we have the capability to listen and communicate on the radio with you if you let us know you need us to be listening and communicating with you on that Mark's channel.
That is correct.
All right. So, do you know if those agencies have been so notified?
They will be if they haven't been.
Okay.
So, moving on. If anybody has any other questions about Mark's or anything? Okay. Patrolman Banks is going to be promoted to sergeant at the Monday council meeting, January 5th, 2015. By that time, Patrolman Markley should have completed his FTO training by that time. So far, we haven't seen any issues and didn't expect to see any in the first place. We move on to, I think we discussed this briefly, about the police overtime. When you look at that, there's a wide disparity of paid overtime. I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's one officer who's received been paid for 18 hours of overtime, and we have another officer who's topped out at 503 hours of paid overtime. So there's a big discrepancy as to who's working overtime or being ordered or court and so forth. The one thing this does not show, however, is overtime that's been worked or accrued that's been paid out in comp time. So that's one thing that doesn't show, because that officer that has 18 hours could have worked as many hours, however, it's been paid into a comp bank. So these are kind of misleading unless you get that full picture.
Something to a step that is going to be taken toward trying to reduce the accumulation of overtime hours. Our canine officer, Officer MD, has worked, and correct me if I'm wrong, has worked night shifts on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Every other Tuesday during the day, he and other canine officers in the area, Sheriff's Office, Newark, and such, have a training day. And he has been, and it's an all-day training day that they run with the canine units. He has been then every other week accumulating 8 hours at an overtime rate. We have adjusted his shift so that on the Tuesdays that he will be training, he'll work Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And on the week that he doesn't have training, it'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think it helps us. Feedback I had heard from him was that he actually liked that idea.
And one of the reasons is every other week he's being mandated to work 48 hours a week, which no one does. No one else does that. So the fact that he's only going to have to work 40 hours a week is a big plus. I mean, one of the things that we're always concerned about is officer fatigue, especially officers that work midnight shifts because they don't get as much sleep, have to go to court during the day, file charges. He's training, so hopefully this will cut down on some of the officer fatigue that that he has. Obviously, when he gets fatigued, he has to call off work, which then forces someone to come in and cover his shift. So it could have a domino effect of decreasing overtime.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the 8 hours training every other week, is that an ongoing forever? Is that just something they always do? I don't know anything about being a canine officer or
That's fine. What it is the Supreme Court's mandated that there be a certain number of hours of training every month for certification, for canine units to maintain a certification. So the Supreme Court has really set the guidelines for the number of hours each month that canine officers must train. So it's not even an arbitrary thing. It is, in order to stay legal, this is what you have to do.
What is the training? Is it like paper pencil, or
If you guys don't mind, I'm going to
field
go ahead, as I
training?
mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and bow out. I'll come back later.
Working with a dog, or
It is most of the field training where they're doing tracking of people or detaining of people.
Okay.
It's all hands-on stuff.
Okay. And I have one other question, just for
Yes,
a point of clarification. When you talked about the overtime and the comp bank, were you saying that in that $144,163 that also reflects money that's been put back in a comp bank to pay them for that time off, or were you saying that that figure would actually be higher if they weren't taking it in comp time?
If we did not have a comp bank, that figure would be higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I made sense, but then I thought maybe you were saying that to kind of say that.
Yeah. So let's see what else we have here. The next one is just the monthly overtime, which you sort of gone over that. Excuse me. And then the next to last page is the officer citations for the month. I'm sorry, for the year.
Do you have all these pages you talk about? I look at everybody else, I don't have those either. Nobody has those.
You don't?
We've only had the initial page.
This is the package that the chief gave me.
When you're done with that, I'm gonna make some copies.
I certainly can. That's not a problem.
You just have it for your record.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of it was
It's just
information.
It was summarized in the
It's
original.
summarized on that,
Yeah.
that document there. Yes, sir. So,
Sorry to interrupt.
that's okay. All right. But yes, I will definitely make copies for you guys on those. And then it's the same thing as this goes over the calls for service, which we went over. They stated that earlier. So,
I think that'll be okay. I don't think we're gonna take copies of all that,
Yeah.
since it was basically a summary of this
Summary
program.
right here.
yeah, so give
Yeah.
a summary and just those other pages, a little more detail. Are there any other questions for me?
Ready? All right. Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your report. We'll move on to 552 Fire. Chief Huggins.
Yes, sir. Okay, November statistics. 37 fire, 460 total fire calls. That's an increase of 59 compared to the previous year. EMS runs are down 126 for the month, and that's a decrease of 41 EMS calls from the previous year, same time frame. Transports are up 24, same time last year, 75 this time, 70 last year. So, and it's just been exceptionally slow, which is a good thing. But I know over the Thanksgiving weekend, we just don't have days where we don't turn a wheel. You know, we average about 5.5 runs a day statistically, but it's not uncommon to have 15 calls in a given day. But I know we took, I think, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday over Thanksgiving weekend, a total of 9 calls for the entire weekend. And that's just unusual. And I know this last weekend, I think, 2 calls on one shift and 3 calls on the other. So for whatever reason, I guess that's a good thing. It's the holiday season, but usually the runs.
Only 6 people left town.
So anyway, mutual aids given 32, received 35. We had air evac in, or called 3 different times. We had a self-inflicted stab wound and a vehicle rollover out on Kaiser Road, and then a gentleman who was smoking something in the paper about an oxygen tank exploding. Oxygen tanks don't normally explode, but
Do when you smoke cigarettes around.
well, yeah, but the oxygen tank didn't explode. The nasal cannula and the environment around his face ignited because oxygen is an accelerant. And we did not have an explosion of
The tank.
the tank, right? And so the advocate got that wrong. But
Sensationalized a little bit, you said?
I'm sorry.
Sensationalized a little bit?
That's the first time.
That gentleman has since.
Oh,
Yeah, come on. As I mentioned, that gentleman that was
Lead the
burned
leads, baby.
died.
Did he die?
Yes. The gentleman with the burn, so just passed away. So it's unfortunate. His wife was in today getting copies of reports and things. But he just had a lot of health issues that complicated his problem. But it's unfortunate. Legislative requests, I really don't have one. However, I remembered that, and I forget this every year, and I had a contract for 2 years ago, Franklin Township. So here, probably within the next week, I have Lynn digging up. I've contacted the law director's office. He wasn't even coming in today, and so there was no point in trying to cram something through. But we have drug that out for months in years past, so I'll get that to you as quick as I can.
It's always renewed annually?
The last couple times we wrote it for a couple of years.
Yeah,
with a
So your 2
percentage
years is up
increase.
now, or?
2 years are up for that
Okay.
last one, so this will be for fiscal 15.
You recommending a bump in the rate?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what. I think there was a 10% increase
In
the
runs?
last couple of years.
In runs?
Runs are pretty much the same. I haven't run those stats yet as far as where we're at, but
We're still covered about a third of the township, right?
no, it's not even.
Not even a third?
No, it's not. I would say a sixth, a seventh.
Six?
Really?
But it's usually averages around 24 runs a year. So they were out there this morning on a possible house fire that ended up being nothing. Like everything. So anyway, so I just bring your attention that I will be, nothing much is going to change. It's something that we have done for years. I can't even tell you how much it is right now. Without, I know in 2011, and I have a copy of it here, but it was a 2011 and it was a $6,000. So it's more than that now, but it's a tremendous amount. And we're getting EMS billing money on the EMS calls, and that's the majority of the calls that we take out there is EMS. So.
Do you think you can justify a 10% bump?
If you so desire, I think we can.
I was just asking whether
Yeah, I
you
think
can
we
justify.
can.
it.
I think we can.
You're gonna need resistance from township
I
trustees.
haven't as of yet.
Which township is it?
Franklin Township. You pick up the area starting at
Forest Hills,
Yeah.
Blue Jay Road.
Yeah, it starts at like you said, Forest Hills on Blue Jay after you hit the city limits,
Yeah.
down the hill, across Cotterman to the center of the intersection at Flint Ridge,
Yeah.
back up, and it starts at Fairmont. So it's what you call a big chunk. I think there's about 90 structures. I'm sorry?
Not easy to go, is it?
No, it takes,
No.
Station 2 is very quickly there, but it's a 4-minute call for, over the hill. And
And
through
down
the river,
there,
through the
Through
woods.
the dale.
But it's just as far for them, that used to be Madison Township, and the fire company has an unmanned station other than the weekends on Flint Ridge, but that's a long haul for them out of Jacktown.
Have they ever approached us about expanding our territory?
Has-
For consideration, financial consideration? Seems like Station 2 would be the closest. As you're describing Jacksontown and Madison Township, we're a lot closer than.
There have been, Chief Wilson and I have discussed, you want a bigger piece of the pie, and I've told him, no, it wasn't necessary. That's because you're right, it is a long haul, and when our equipment, they get everything that our citizens get when we're out there, we're leaving, with our limited manpower, we're leaving Heath.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's always worth checking into, but I have not pursued that anymore, and I know they're,
It doesn't mean we have to accept it, just open the dialogue and if it makes coverage sense and economic sense, consider all the options. For 24 runs a year, it certainly pays for itself.
oh yeah. Anything else on that? Monthly expenses, the 92,000, 2013, you can see it 31,809, versus this year, 65,000 in wages. It's just the way the pay structure worked out. 17,000 in overtime, and total for the year 283.03. You can see the difference, 244 versus 283, and December's going to be a bad month too. We still got a lot of vacation time and stuff to fill. So I predicted about 300,000 plus. Yes, definitely. 310, 315. Medic 1 is finally fixed. The last bill was for $3,900. I think I may have told you guys that at council meeting or whatever. But anyway, it wasn't an exhaust system and just ceramic deal that had to be sent out and baked and cleaned. And this squad year was unique, and it was, as I think I've mentioned before, Brian knows more about them, that require the fluids. The ureas and things, but this year International had some kind of almost a catalyst in there that didn't use urea as a heat source and all, and so it ran and plugged itself up. It had gotten a leak in the radiator, some of the cooling stuff for some of this emissions, and then it baked the coolant into this ceramic deal, and that was causing and I mean, we asked them early on if that could be the problem. No, there was no computer codes, so they had to kind of tear it apart piece by piece. It was expensive, but it's running great.
You see the picture in the Advocate where it showed the newer 1965 squad unit?
No, I didn't.
Well, our most reliable ones were 93 or whatever we got?
What's that? Oh, yeah.
96? That's our most reliable or reserve unit. It doesn't break down. Keeps on
It
going.
doesn't have all the electronic stuff. The regenerator, but unfortunately, any fire apparatus, anything we buy is going to have this emission on it in the future. So it's just a lot of BS.
I mean, in this kind of world, they
It
don't
keeps him working. That's
They don't have recalls or technical service bulletins, or they just don't have that kind of stuff with these kind of vehicles like we do cars. They don't have any recall.
yes. We get a notice once in a while that there needs to be something programmed into the system or whatever, but no, it isn't.
But these
As
environmental
frequent as-
pollution, these exhaust things.
And this was a specific year. After that, it went to a totally different system. So unfortunately, that's it. I mean, here's as much I can say about it.
They're not bad. They're not supporting it. If it's just
They'll
bad,
sell
the whole
it.
thing is bad.
They'll
That's
sell
what
it, but they won't support it.
No, they it was the first year for that regen system, and then they tried to improve on it, and it just didn't work well. And they had that problem. They're stranding cars. They were stranding trucks on the side of the road. They just shut down because if you don't regenerate that thing, I mean, it keeps track of it. If you don't do it, it just shuts you down. It's a weird system. Very happy. Very negative.
So they did away with it.
Oh, it was short term. Only a couple of years they had that system, and it was carrying on.
My understanding was it wasn't cost effective to try to eliminate the system and go to something new based on what caused it.
So recall to replace the system just
No,
never
they
entered
didn't do it.
never entered the
They weren't
picture.
required, but here's the thing: they weren't mandated to put that system on the vehicle in the first place
Why did they?
because it was coming down the pipe. It's coming down the pipe.
Short lived.
It's here now, but it's totally different.
So anyway,
Yeah.
it is in service. It's running well, and number 2, we tested pumps last Thursday before the Christmas extravaganza here. Clear into the dark, but everything passed. We did that up at Marathon. Cause has been servicing the vehicles here at the tail end of the year, and just oil changes and getting things ready. And we did end up replacing the tires on engine 2. All of them. The front ones have been replaced earlier, and as I said last time, I'm using the funds out of different accounts versus asking for more money. And it's working out. I'll have enough to cover everything. So, training wise, we're just gonna, this time of year, we're gonna take trucks out if we can help it. And, that sounds funny, but anyway, we'll concentrate on some building familiarization and walkthroughs, Kaiser, the Airplane Base, Experion, I think that's how you say it. I can never say it right.
Experience.
We do have Allison was in again today with the Stryker company and has left us a cot. She'll be in tomorrow and in Wednesday night to demonstrate with the volunteers, but we've got a power cot on loan that we can play with. She doesn't want us taking that on calls, but they've got it in the station. And so anyway, we're doing that. The BWC grant, I have a rough draft of that from Mr. Worth. I think I've reported to you already that he already got one of the steps of the inspection and such processed and a report back. So I think before Christmas that we will file this and hopefully we'll be successful in acquiring that workers' comp grant. The mayor has already told me that that money, the 42,000 plus that's going to be our share of that, will come out of the fire levy 2, or actually fire levy 1. We have somewhat of a surplus in there that I was putting away to buy a fire truck. So we'll be spending that this next year, some of it.
The new fire money funds from that you won't get until 16.
That's correct. We will start working on that too.
You're planning on retiring next year.
I've given the city a notice of January the 15th of 16 I will be retiring.
So will you kind of get a hedge on vehicle that you might want to purchase in 16?
I don't care what you get.
I know, but I'm just saying. I just wanted to say that I wanted you to be a part of.
Yes.
Yeah. Seeing what we need.
We can only do what
the right way.
what monies we have, but I have high hopes with the monies that we do have. We'll be able to, if we get the grant with workers' comp, we'll purchase a couple power cots. We will, and I've got a meeting on the 17th with Rosenbauer and checking into financing or purchase lease for that'd be 5 years. So I said I've got about $233,000 that Linda Richards and we had saved up over the last few years. So that'll give us a nice down payment. I don't want to spend all of that.
No.
But that'd be, I don't know, $100,000 towards the purchase of it, get that started. This the rescue, gosh, I'll probably be retired before we ever receive that.
Yeah.
They're well taken care of for the next 5 years at a time, and then we'll take a look at the emission to replace one of those.
Now, when you order units, you pay when it's delivered?
What we have, Dr. Kruger was always adamant about, hey, let's pay cash for it as we go along, because he never liked to finance things and all that. And he always had the money, or we came up with the money. In some cases, if you put a substantial down payment and pay for the chassis and some of that, they'll invest your money and give you a little bit of a return.
When does that due?
Usually upon signing the contract for the truck. And if you research, if you write the specs or waive the specs because of proprietary things, and you go from there. But we will be doing this a little different because of our limited cash or whatever, and enter into some sort of a lease purchase agreement. For 5, 7, 10, depending on.
Because it takes 6 months to a year to get a unit?
Yes. About 300 days delivery right now through the order something right now.
And
That's it through Rosenbauer.
what do you use this as the number one need right out of the chute?
I believe. No, I think
pumper?
our pumper rescue is the top priority. I'd love to go with a station pickup, and John Roth needs a truck too. However, we can run it a couple more years if we have to. Versus, I still, in my opinion, as the mayor's, the rescue is our top priority. but we have a little wiggle room with that money and may be able to get an EMS unit started too, or whatever. So, you know, I have high hopes before I retire. We'll be in pretty good shape and pointed in the right direction. But that waits to be seen.
Thanks for the patience.
So other than that, that's any other questions on the rescue or
The power cot down on it. They're letting you use a cot where you can't take it out on a run just to kind of get some real live in the trenches use.
her concern is our
strange.
squad doesn't have hooks that whatever, it doesn't have the loading system.
Oh, it doesn't have the hooks to keep
It doesn't have the thing that's going to pull it in, and part of that, and there's a certain amount of liability just to leave it and let until she has all 3 crews trained on it. So anyway, they're going to play with it for the next 3 days, and there's a hook that needs to be installed in the back of the squad.
Why wouldn't they put it in?
I'm sorry?
Why wouldn't they just put it in? If they want to sell the unit, just put it in and take it out. It's done.
Put what you're talking about? Put the loading system. Oh, okay.
Put the hook in there.
Well,
so
we
that
probably
can
got a
use it.
hook that came with the original strikers. We've just never installed it. So,
Just common sense and logic. Right?
well,
Why the hell wouldn't you put
No,
use it
wait
on
a
a
minute,
run?
wait a
You know?
He's
Well-
common sense of logic in the same sense.
yeah.
Why wouldn't you let them go on some runs? I want these guys to have like a couple shifts. Each shift ought to have a couple shots at this with both the striker and the other one, to really get a feel so they can make an honest, sensible choice of which one they prefer.
Well, I
And
think
doing demos in the fire station isn't the answer. Just saying. I don't get it.
yeah, and so far she has not relinquished that cot to be taken out on the streets.
How about the other company?
I haven't even talked to the other company.
Okay.
We pretty well made up our mind that we were going to go with the striker. So
Is
it's
that a-
more
is that a
expensive of the two.
consensus?
I'm sorry.
That's a consensus?
I believe it is. Yes. It's like council people. You've got multiple opinions and all, but I would say the majority of the votes taking it go with the striker for those that have seen it. So. Other than that, any questions, comments? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We're adjourned at 6:12.
Jeff, we're supposed to wait till the mayor gets back. Like, nobody referred to the budget.
I just got an email
Yeah.
last week and I said, yeah, I'll just be with you after this meeting. I didn't know how many people were going to be on it.